Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency. It's my privilege to welcome you to the launch of the 2021 Prosperity Index. Unbelievably, this is our 15th global edition. And my name is Alan McCormick. I am the chairman of the Legatum Institute. This evening, tonight is one of my favorite events in our annual calendar. And as we had hiatus last year, it's so refreshing to see us all here in person. I think if you're living in London, you don't realize it, but you're actually living in a little bubble of freedom at the moment. And it's so refreshing to be here maskless and with so many friends. So thank you for coming out on this wet November evening. For the first time, this year's launch is fully hybrid. Alongside our many guests here in London, we've got hundreds of people joining us online, giving me the privilege of welcoming our biggest ever global audience to this launch. So welcome to those online. And for those of you who are not familiar with the work of the Legatum Institute, we're a public policy think tank, and we've set ourselves an ambitious mission, which is to create a global movement of people committed to creating the pathways from poverty to prosperity and the transformation of society. And in practice, what this means is that we champion open economies, empowered and responsible people, and inclusive and peaceful societies. Time and again, these core raw ingredients prove themselves to be indispensable to development and human flourishing. And the Prosperity Index, which we're launching tonight, is a practical tool for delivering real life change. Change for people and nations at any stage of development. It reveals the way to a higher standard of living and the growth of nations. And the Institute's amazing and hardworking metrics team uses more than 50,000 data points to assess prosperity in 167 countries. And that covers 99% of the global population. And so what we really try and do is get under the bonnet of these countries and understand what's really going on. And we see repeatedly that private initiative enabled by a supportive state is core to unleashing both wealth and well-being. And Legatum's index is unique. It looks beyond economic measures like GDP and beyond the simplistic solutions of spending ever more money. It captures something fundamentally more important. What it is that really makes life more meaningful, more abundant, and simply more worth living. That concept has been brought into stark relief by the COVID-19 pandemic, which has shown us the very best of humanity, not just doctors and nurses performing daily heroics, but people looking after their neighbors and the most vulnerable in their communities. But the pandemic has also accentuated fault lines. As governments around the world sought to handle this disease, liberties have been curtailed and a new, more coercive way of life imposed. And in terms of the data, last year's pandemic has shaved 3.6% off global GDP, locking people in their homes for extended periods of time, shutting down economies, businesses and schools, and disrupting supply chains, it turns out will have ramifications which are going to be felt for years to come. We'll hear tonight, though, that even before the pandemic, there had already been a marked reduction globally in key freedoms and the quality of global governance. Culturally, the advent of identity politics has superseded facts, debate, and the competition of ideas. We've seen the pernicious rise of a particular form of political coercion with more public denunciations and a council culture. And this is an important point for us to address, and Philippa will unpack it more later. The index reveals that we should not take lightly the gains that have been hard-earned, an inheritance that we sitting here have all received. We must not take our prosperity for granted. Now is the time for serious reflection on where our current values will take us. And all of this will be picked up by our contributors over the next hour as we explore the impact of the pandemic on global prosperity, as well as other trends that are covered in this year's index. In particular, I'd like to extend a warm welcome to His Excellent President Masisi of Botswana. Welcome. He is our keynote speaker tonight, and he'll be speaking about Botswana's rich history as a beacon of African prosperity, and it's as a standout nation in Africa as well for its high standards of integrity and the enlightened way in which it's managed its politics, economy over the last 50 years. And our distinguished lineup of speakers also includes John Anderson, who's getting up at some unearthly hour of the morning to join us, who's the former Deputy Prime Minister of Australia, as well as Neil Oliver, who is a historian, author, broadcaster, and a keen observer. And for watchers of GB News, some might say modern day prophet as well. And he will close our proceedings with a few observations. So once again, to all of you, thank you for joining us this evening. We're delighted to have you here. I'm now going to hand over and welcome Philippa Stroud, the CEO of the Legatum Institute, to the stage. So thank you.